Spoilers! Spoilers!
So many spoilers.
There's spoilers!
Go ahead.
Haircut.
I have to write it down.
Fat Thor.
Huh?
Oh.
Yeah. Слушай внимательно.
We're at 114 Selena Plaza, 3rd floor. We have an S-22 exactly 8 miles out. Put the woman on the phone or I will blow up the block before you can make the lobby. We need you to come in.
Are you kidding? I'm working.
This takes precedence.
I'm in the middle of an interrogation. This moron is giving me everything.
I don't give everything.
Look, you can't pull me out of this right now.
Barton's been compromised.
Let me put you on hold.
Why shouldn't the guy let off a little steam?
You know damn well why. Back off.
Oh, I'm starting to want you to make me.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off. What are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
I know guys with none of that worth a 10 of you. I've seen the footage. The only thing you really fight for is yourself. You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play. To lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you.
I think I would just cut more.
You're gonna need a rain check on that dance.
Alright. A week next Saturday at the Store Club.
Got it.
8 o'clock on the dot. Don't dare be late. Understood?
You know, I still don't know how to dance.
I'll show you how.
It's the movie everyone is mostly talking about. The end of an era, the end of 22 movies, the end of a phase. And we laughed, we cried, and we critiqued. It is the Avengers Endgame recap. As was said multiple times throughout this, the word spoiler. This is going to be a spoiler-filled review of Avengers Endgame. Welcome to Agree or Disagree, the podcast. My name is Kevin Olenek. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at KEVOLE. You can subscribe on all podcast platforms on iTunes and Spotify. You can find me as a friend on Facebook at Kevin Olenek. Like Agree or Disagree, the podcast on Facebook. And also, you will be listening to this on Powercast 979. With me, we did the Avenger game. You may remember we did the Avengers Endgame preview, so we are back together as we have now all watched it. And joining me first is, been through all the previews, bottom line views, Mitch Milani. How's it going?
Why'd you have to make me cry in the opening, Kev?
Well, that's how what I do is I bring emotion to the table here. So, that's what I do.
Should be fun.
Yes. Writer Selena Lohan joining me as well. How's it going?
It's good. I'm very excited.
Yes. And actor Jennifer Kazin. How's it going?
It's going good.
I felt very insincere. How's it good? Like, it sounds so robotic. You guys all doing okay? Is everyone okay? Did you have a good day?
It was a gorgeous day.
It was a very gorgeous day. It was a very gorgeous day.
Second time talking to you, so not so good.
It's an excellent. That's probably the best part of your day. And,
I think I've only slept 4 hours a night since I last saw you. So.
Oh. Well,
why?
Well, that's what I do. I bring emotion out of people, and I make people not sleep, right? Is that it?
Yeah, totally. It's all your fault.
It's all my fault. So, yes, we are going to recap Probably there were two big things that were talked about this weekend. Of course, it was the big episode of Game of. I actually, it's funny. I think that there's an interesting, not super symmetry, but it was fascinating because we'll have to talk about two really well done battle scenes. Of course, with Game of Thrones, a 90-minute something that I think if people are actually needing therapy for, and then we'll. But the other one was the box office smash that I think everyone was expecting Avengers Endgame to be. And kind of, I guess we'll start with kind of get kind of in general, what was the crowd like? Like when you went? Maybe we'll start there.
Mine was interesting. I think it varied from excitement, cheering, clapping to dead silence. I don't know if that was the same for you guys, but a lot of variation in terms of the response to what was going on the screen. I think some moments that I thought might get a bigger response didn't necessarily get that response, and some moments that I didn't think would get much of a response did get a response, so it was everywhere.
Well, I'm in Vancouver, so people were dead. The audience was, I was like gasping and even I think I kind of like made a like sort of like noise, and the audience seemed to be very numb, shocked into silence.
When did you go?
Sunday, 3 p.m.
Yeah, because I saw it downtown Vancouver Thursday with Kevin, and our audience was pretty responsive.
Yeah, I saw it Friday, so.
Yeah, it was interesting because I saw it with Selena, and then I saw it with Jenn as well. So I've seen it twice because I'm a nerd.
You traitor!
I'm not a traitor. I'm
trying to go Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'm going again on Thursday.
Traitors!
Yes.
Traitors, all of you. No, it was interesting to hear the two crowd reactions. There was a couple of places where the crowds cheered at the same time. The laughter was pretty much all the same, but like the cheering was very different.
I like the one moment where the only people cheering were women, and that was it.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
The ladies!
We'll get into that. So how we're going to do this is we're going to go from beginning to end. We're going to address a couple. There were a couple of controversies in this movie. We're going to address that, and there were some really incredible moments here, and so we'll get into that. So we'll basically start from the beginning here. The opening scene was in the preview, which is fascinating because there was stuff that was in the trailer that did not make the movie, which was interesting. And it's the scene where we see Hawkeye with his child, with his family. He's there. His daughter is shooting, trying to shoot the arrow, and his wife Laura is making hot dogs. Is mayo on hot dogs really that big of a deal?
I've never done it.
Disgusting. A disgrace.
It was a disgrace to hot dogs everywhere.
Apparently. It is a disgrace.
Yeah. And it works better on hamburgers.
Yeah, it's fair. So, she shoots the arrow, and then he comes to see her, and then they are all gone. We see the little dust. That's how it starts, as Hawkeye is wandering around, and then we get into the next scene. It's Tony Stark and Nebula. I do want to spend some time talking about the Nebula because I think that it's an underrated factor. But they're playing a game. Tony's teaching her how to play flick soccer, which was Nebula got all excited about it.
Loved her.
Oh. Yeah. Tony says it's okay to have fun. They shake hands, and then Tony does the Pepper Potts speech, which part was in the trailer, but part was not, which was fascinating. And then we see Tony falls asleep. Nebula takes him to the front of the space station, puts on a jacket, and he's sleeping, and his mouth is red, which is foreshadowing to something. And then there's a light, and we see this light is dragged, and then we see Captain Marvel make her first appearance in the movie. There was a crowd cheer when Jenn and I watched that. I don't know if any other crowd cheer was there, but there was certainly not the Sunday popular crowd did not cheer. But what did you think there?
My crowd response was more like, ooh. It wasn't like a cheer. It was like, ooh, it's Captain Marvel, that sort of thing. It was fun. It was a good opening. I liked the way to start with Hawkeye because I think that's the character everybody was upset he wasn't in Infinity War, so I think it was smart to start off with him to see where he was at and then go from there to see why he's going to be involved in this movie. And then with the Iron Man thing, important away from it was the fact that he got super ski thing. I thought that was a really nice ad to have him on his deathbed by the time he got back. That was really cool. And of course, there were some good comedy moments. But yeah, I thought it was a solid way to start and kind of first hour and even up to 2 hours of what the movie was going to be like.
Anyone else?
I also really enjoyed the Hawkeye thing. That was a really moving opener, for sure.
Yeah, it was a really, really well done there.
I felt like, so my biggest query, not while I was watching it, because I was on that journey of watching the film, but my thoughts about it afterwards and maybe before were, how are they going to structure a 3-hour movie? How, because normally screenplays have really patent, predictable structures. And even no matter how innovative you are within that storyline, the structure has to stand. And so I was curious how they're going to structure that. So for me, the beginning of giving you family and love and moments and loss like that was genius.
So Marvel takes down the spaceship. They're at the Avengers compound. There is Rhodey, Pepper Potts, Steve Rogers, and Natasha Romanoff are all there, and as well as Rocket the Raccoon. They're all there. This was an interesting little dialogue. So Stark is talking about how he had a way to do things. He wanted the Shield to sacrifice their freedoms, and we didn't want to do that. He made a joke about, are we the pre-Vengers or are we the Avengers? He passes out. Here, everyone's trying to calm him down, and he's lying down for a little bit. And then Marvel decides, so Nebula explained, they were trying to figure out where Thanos is. This was in part not in the trailer, was partly in the trailer, not part of the trailer, was that conversation. We have and then leads to the that scene where Thor pulls the axe in front of Marvel and says, "I like this one." And then Marvel wants to go and kill Thanos, but they all want to be a team. And then Nebula basically explains where Thanos is. So they're off to Thanos, see Thanos. Thanos is just kind of all relaxed. Just relaxed in his own little planet. Just doing his thing, he's Thanosing. Then they all come in and they choke him down. They bring him down. They ask what happened with the stones. He says he destroyed the stones. They cut off his arm. Thor does the famous thing where he cuts off his head. He says, I just cut off his head, and he walks away. I don't know. That was another really good scene, I thought. Just a really good traction of arguments of, I think I was expecting a little bit more arrogance from Captain Marvel, based on what the character was from the movie. Not arrogance, but more not teamy. And it was there was a nice unity there. And I think because of that, it allowed us to understand the stakes and really feel for the characters there. And I had to admit, though, I was like, So they already killed Thanos already?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Love
inter-
it.
Okay, that shocked the heck out of me. I was like, what is going to happen?
Yes.
How did they do this? And like, as soon as you saw Thor show up, you're like, oh, this guy's all business. He's just going for the head. And that one RDJ scene where he comes back, oh my god, that was great acting. That was a fantastic scene. And yeah, the good point on the Captain Marvel thing. I think it might have been better if they would have had her be like, because at the beginning she sort of shows up kind of arrogant and she's like, yeah, I'm just going to do this by myself. You know, I'm strong. I can do this, whatever. I'm going to go kill Thanos. It would have been kind of cool. I know that Thanos was already beat up because he had the second snap, so he was not really like powered up in any way or anything like that, but I think it would have been a better payoff if they would have had possibly her like get shut down by Thanos the first time, and then possibly at the end of the film kind of learn to play in it, and then that way get that payoff at the end. But instead they kind of just loved the mix, and she did like what she was supposed to do. I don't know. I feel like there was growth there. Personally,
I have 2 points completely separately to two things you said there. On the whole, Thanos dying right away and it being really shocking.
Yeah.
You know, there was an Easter egg in a bunch of theaters where theaters were printed the start time and the end time had the movie only screening for 19 minutes. And that's when Thanos dies.
Makes sense. Yeah, because from there, like, this is the thing about this movie is, like, you don't know coming into the movie how they're going to place everything. This is the most anticipated movie I've been to that I had no idea what the plot was going to be like.
But on the Captain Marvel thing, what I was going to say is she's never shown an inability to work with the team. She just has strong opinions of how she thinks she should go about things, and if you disagree with her, she's going to go with her own plan. But when you're following her plan, she goes with it. She doesn't.
I just think, like, because she's never been a part of a team, I think it would have been interesting to see her grow. That's all I'm saying.
She was a part of a team on Krill.
Do you want the movie to be 4 hours long?
Oh, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Then this was This was really interesting because I think, this was how the Russos understood their audience. This was really well done because the next moment is we fade to black, and the next moment is 5, and then there's this long pause and years later, and then we're back into this world. It's that role played. We see Steve Rogers is in a support group. That's the character is played by Joe Russo. I believe it's Joe Russo. It's one of the directors anyway, Anthony or Joe Russo.
Yeah, I think it's Joe.
Yeah, it was Joe. Explaining that he was out with someone and he cried at a salad bar, and his date cried at a salad bar. He cried at dessert. They didn't know what to talk about. Again, kind of establishing it's a really subtle way to establish the world that they were in. Then next we see Natasha Romanoff. She's kind of in the Nick Fury role, which I was sort of speculating would be at the end. It came now. And Captain Marvel, Rocket, Nebula, Rhodey, and everyone was there. And crap, I can't remember her name from Black Panther. She was there too.
Can I just say how much I appreciated that? Like, I didn't see this coming either, that they did the 5-year time jump, because that made a lot of progression happen at the beginning of the movie that I thought was going to happen at the end.
Yeah.
That came out of nowhere. They've never done anything even close to that.
Yeah. I do
gotta ask, Tom Holland, Spider-Man, is still in high school.
I was going to bring that up. We were going to... Well, I'll bring that up in a little... Yeah.
Conveniently, everybody... All of his friends are going to be
all of his friends were all snapped. Yeah, I agree on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was weird. Yeah, Doctor Strange had gray hair. Anyway. Romanoff sends everyone off to do their thing, but Rhodey sends back and says Ronan is killing. They use the word Barton's killing as out killing people. He is basically turned into quite a vigilante. Romanoff says just keep an eye on him. Steve Rogers comes back, and so they have that conversation. Then we flip to San Francisco, and we see basically the same scene that was the end credit scene of Ant-Man and the Wasp. A rat is walking around and presses a button, and Scott Lang comes out.
It was actually Mickey Mouse, confirmed.
Confirmed. Mickey Mouse, confirmed. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. This okay. I want to spend some time. We can talk about this because I really enjoyed this scene. This is Scott Lang has been away for 5 years, which really helps establish that timeline of what Scott Lang, because Scott Lang was in the quantum realm and he did not realize what happened, and he's seeing all the bodies. He's looking for his daughter, and he sees his name and he's like, "What?" And then he runs and there's a nice cameo from Ken Jeong and being the security guy. Didn't have any lines, but it was a really funny moment. Then he sees his name, and then he goes to the door, knocks on the door, and it's his daughter, but all grown up. It was a really touching moment. Apparently, she had to go through school and go through growth spurts, which Tom Holland did not. Anyway, I don't know about that.
Ant-Man is never better in this movie. Like, this is the best he's ever been.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Then we see Scott knock on the door of the compound, and this was in the previews. Steve Rogers asked, "Is this now or is this later?" And it was like now. And they talk about the time travel idea, and they say, "Well, how does this work?" What my favorite line is, "Have you studied quantum theory?" And Romanoff answers, "Just for conversation," which I thought was just great. And then they decide they need a different brain, and we see Tony. So we see this porch, and Tony Stark comes out. He goes into to find something. He calls someone out. There's a little clap, and out comes his little daughter Morgan in an Iron Man hat. That was really cute. Rogers and Romanoff and Scott Lang are there talking about the importance. This was really an interesting tension too, because really the snap did not hurt Tony Stark. He got his family, he got everything he wanted. He's living a life of comfort. He really doesn't.
100%. When I saw that, I was completely certain that whatever they were going to do was going to make his daughter not exist anymore.
Yeah, that was the whole. I was like, "Oh, this is really interesting."
Kev, I think it was 100% intentional because, like, with Iron Man, his whole story has been like, does he choose to be the hero or does he choose to be the selfish guy that he used to be, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, they put him in that circumstance of he could have everything he wants and stay home and just do his thing, but then he can't be the hero.
That's why I definitely thought his kid was going to get erased in the events.
Well, that's why why I thought he was going to have to bite it, because that was too good. Like, it was too perfect. It was so good. I want that life.
Yeah. So they have the debate, and then it's night times. Tony Stark's doing things. He's doing dishes. He sees a picture of Happy and Peter Parker, all smiles. Of course, Parker was part of the snap. He goes downstairs and just says, "What the heck? Can you try this thing?" And lo and behold, he solves time travel.
Awesome day, by the way.
It's just Tuesday, He solves time travel. And then
go back in time.
But they have the debate. They have that very debate you guys are talking about. I can just sit and put this away, or I can do something about it. And we're left to kind of think a little bit about more what happens.
The really crucial line was by Pepper too. It's like, you couldn't rest if you didn't do it or something. Yeah, something to that degree.
Yeah, and it was also my biggest failure is not trying to contain you. Is one of my few failures in life is not trying to contain you.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I again knew that he was going to be his story to end, because in script and writing, the hero's call to action, he always must first refuse before he goes to the call to the action. So I was like, oh, Tony.
Yeah. So they decided they need a bigger brain, and we kind of predicted that this would happen. So the next scene is a bunch of food. Scott Lang, Steve Rogers, and Natasha Romanoff are with Bruce Banner, and he looks like the Hulk with glasses and a Gap sweater.
And Davin.
Yeah, quite a dapper little Professor Hulk. He explains that he combined, which I think was a great way to kind of end the Hulk. It sort of ended the Hulk story. The Hulk journey was all about, and they do address this a little bit later on, which we'll get into, but they sort of his whole tension about avoiding or getting rid of the Hulk, he found a way to combine it, which was neat, and it really played well within the movie, I thought.
I honestly felt like it was perfect the way they did it, but until the end where they didn't let him Hulk out. Like, it's been a while since we've seen him Hulk out in an action scene. We kind of need to see it in this movie, and we didn't get to see it. That's like the one flaw with the Hulk that I feel like they should have done something with him in the big fight scene. Especially because in Infinity War, he basically didn't fight at all.
Oh, good point.
But you know what? I think that the one thing was it felt like there was more Banner than Hulk, I think, at the end of the day. It was Banner was the key, not Hulk. And the Hulk was part of who Bruce Banner was.
Yeah, but I don't know, because in Infinity War, like, his whole thing is, like, he doesn't get to fight Thanos at the end. He's trying, and he feels like he lets down his team because the Hulk isn't there to fight. And at the end of the day, he still doesn't fight.
But he kind of explains that in this point, because he says, like, you didn't let everyone down. Natasha says, you never let everyone down. And he said, but I blamed myself because I didn't get it done.
I don't know. I just feel like they could have added that scene. I don't know. It's like just changed the way he's involved in the fight. Maybe he, because of the radiation that he receives from the glove, he hulks out, or maybe because when he's lifting up that thing to save Rocket, he hulks out.
Yeah.
Like, do something. Like, I don't know. I've missed that. It's been a while since we've seen it.
Right. Plus, also, where does he get those huge cotton shirts?
Big and tall.
Yeah, big and tall. Big and tall.
I don't know. I kind of like that he didn't Hulk out, because his whole thing was he didn't want to be controlled by the Hulk anymore, too. Like, over everything. He couldn't have romantic relationships. He couldn't be a person because he was scared of this thing inside of him all the time.
But he still can't. Like, who would get intimate with that?
There are freaky people.
That's dangerous.
Selena, you who live in Vancouver, asking about who would get intimate with.
Even if he didn't Hulk out, he could still have a bigger impact on the fight. He's the Hulk.
Fight as Banner.
Ooh.
To show, like, yeah, he still has that strength, but when he's not hulking out, it can be used more effectively because he still has a brain. And
yeah, or at least show how, like, his brain in the action, at least show how his brain now impacts the way he goes about fighting instead of just recklessly fighting people.
But in a character, like, emphasizing on his character, it was a new character, right? So the emergence of the two made for, like, a stubbly beglassed Hulk, like, that was a different character from both.
Yeah. So it's this time travel thing that we're talking about is outside of his expertise, but they decide to try some things. So we see Scott Lang turn into a baby, an old man, a young kid, and then there's a great line. I think, I'm not sure it was a baby me or old man me or me that did something in my pants. Then the car races through, and it's Tony Stark doing his comeback thing. Stark and Rogers have
Love
a nice...
the Audi callback.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The nice little.
What did it say on the license plate? I didn't get to check
I was
it.
looking at that too.
I
It
didn't
said trans something. I thought, like, is that what it
'Cause,
said
like-
on the DeLorean?
Because in the maybe because in the like Iron Man 1, I remember it's like Stark 4 or something. Like he always puts his last name on there.
Yeah, but it wasn't. And then there were, below it, it said trans something. Like, I think that was from the DeLorean.
Well, they did make some Back to the Future references in this movie, a few of them. So
I do time travel without Back to the Future references.
Yeah.
Even Hot Tub Time Machine.
And
references.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which they're making another one.
yeah, yes, they are. So they get into, and there was the key line here is I want to save my family and want to do this without dying, if at all possible. And they have their handshake. So they have finally, Stark and Rogers have their reunion from Civil War. Really, that was the touchback to that. Then from there, they wanted to assemble a team. So we go to Asgard. And Asgard looks a little different than what Asgard did before, because of course it was destroyed. We see Hulk in the back with Rocket, and we meet up with Valkyrie. And of course, we talk about the guy that hasn't been out. He's not going to see you. Knock on the door. Who answers? Cable? Cable? And we see Jesus. We see Thor. Sorry, I was confused. We see Thor.
We see the Big Lebowski, man.
Big Lebowski.
Jesus
And
is like super skinny. Where are you getting that from?
I thought, well, at first I'm trying to get to the point that his face looked like Jesus. And then we get the back thing,
I wasn't looking at his face.
Oh, yeah, because we were all looking at his body. Now, okay.
Well, we usually are with Thor, but for different reasons.
Yes, it was a very different reason that we were looking at Thor's body, with quite a little bit of shock. Now, I did read some tweets and social media comments that there were some people really not happy with how Thor was portrayed. They felt that this was fat shaming.
I could see it, but not in a fat shaming way. I could see it in like a hard Thor fan way, that he doesn't like get his redemption on Thanos in the end scene. He doesn't like, because Thor is the most powerful character there is in the Marvel universe. Like, he should be the one to beat Thanos. He should be the one that's, destroying everybody. The similar way in Infinity War. But from my perspective, I feel like this was great character growth, because that's exactly what would happen. He would be destroyed. He would be like mentally incapable of going to battle or anything like that, because he's lost so many people. Plus, he has basically the whole world on his mind because he let everybody down when he didn't go for the head.
Yeah.
Well,
I
and
think
the points about the fat shaming and all that, a lot of it was that he went through something so monumental, and his depression shows in an actual way that it does in a lot of people who get that depressed. He gained a bunch of weight and became an alcoholic. And I found it a little, like, not odd, because people are this way in real life, but once he did actually join the team, how it was just met kind of with awkward silence or an awkward joke whenever people who really wanted to be like, stop drinking, man, you're killing yourself.
But isn't that real life?
That is real life.
There were moments where it didn't work for me, but then there were other moments where it really worked. So I'm kind of like stuck in the middle, because there were moments with jokes that like I was like, okay, this is like too much. But yeah.
But I think I loved it because, and as a plus-size lady, I loved it. I thought because the emphasis has always been on his body. They are all body conscious. They are all focused on body. But this was, he didn't like go, okay, I'm ugly. He was like, patting his belly and drinking more. Like, it wasn't so much like about, that there was any like pity for him being fat. It was a comedy trope, but it was, I felt, a necessary thing to take him down to human level.
I'm kind of with you on that, and I didn't see anything that was out of like, I could see that people were finding it rude, but I didn't, like, Rocket Raccoon is rude. Like, this is a guy that stole an arm and an eye. And
I haven't seen any of that, Kev. Where have you heard that?
Heard what? That it was rude?
That it was, like, fat shaming. All I've heard from other people is just, like, that they're mad because they love Thor, the character, the way Thor is.
I found the fat shaming things too.
Really?
Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, that's low-hanging fruit, though, right? It's like, you're not getting it then, because his whole redemption arc had to be, if he was just this perfect, strongest, most vital character in the Marvel Universe, he kills Thanos, not in this film, but before, and it's done, and who cares, and nobody feels for him. He is now humbled, and that was what I wanted to see in this film, was how they were going to carry through Thor's storyline. And for me, it was perfect, because instead of being sexy, instead of being, so perfect and such a winner, this made him human.
I do agree with all of that. I think that they could have possibly put more emphasis on him during the battle, because he is the one at the end of Infinity War that does basically go head-to-head with Thanos, and we didn't see a ton of that. Like, we saw more Captain America one-on-one with Thanos than we did Thor. I don't know why that was the choice, because Thanos has more connection to Thor than America. He killed Loki, he basically destroyed. And I don't know. They could have possibly had Thor more involved in the end than they did, but in terms of the redemption. But I do agree with the reason why he becomes fat, the whole redemption stuff. I don't know. They could have involved him a little bit more in the battle at the end.
Okay. But he's still sexy.
Yeah. So we also see a video. There's a video game little tribute there. We see the return of Meek and Kor from Ragnarok, who were just fantastic in that movie.
They got surprising pops in the theater.
Yeah, I think there was a pop in Jen. I think there was a pop in ours for that one. I can't remember, but. Then Hulk basically says that you who were the one that helped me out when I was in my lowest. He was like, Natasha, no, it was you. Rocket says that there's beer on the ship. They find a way to get Thor back to Earth, and then they go into trying to figure out how to get the stones back. And they realize that they all had a little bit of a connection. It was a great little callback to Jane and everyone else. They decide that they're all going back. So we go into the time travel part, where part of the team heads to New York in 2012. We see the Avenger pose with Black Widow sorry, I forgot something here. We need to go back, because there's one more important thing here. So we cut also to a scene in Tokyo where there's a bunch of people dying. There's this a mafia leader is in a fight with a guy. It's the sword fight. Basically says, "Why are you doing this? You killed Thanos. I'm getting you back because you weren't snapped." It's Hawkeye turning into basically the comic book character Ronin. Behind him is Natasha in the rain, basically calling him back. There's a really neat little touch here. Don't give me hope, but he comes back. So Hawkeye is back as well. Hawkeye does a little bit of a quick time travel back to his home to see his daughter. So we know that time travel kind of works. So then we head to New York. It's Banner, it's Stark, it's Lang, and it's Steve Rogers. And this was interesting too, because maybe this was part of what you talked about, Mitch, the Hulk fight here. At this point, he's seeing himself smash things, and he's like, that feels a little gratuitous. And he even makes a play on it when he kind of taps the taxi cab and he taps the motorbike and goes, Yay. Like, it did feel like there was a character evolution from Bruce Banner at that point.
I understand that, but I also think a majority of the audience wants to see Hulk in a certain light. Like, I get the character growth, but at the end of the day, I think you need to give the entertainment to the people in the action scene. Like, you can do both. Is there not a way you can do both?
I think, I understand where you're coming.
I thought the scene was funny, but I thought it would have spoke better to the point if Banner was better at faking being the Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we did get...
That's not really the gripe I have, though. That was fine. That scene was fine. It's more the ending.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we see, of course, them capture Loki. They're doing the gratuitous pose. They make fun of the pose. They make fun of Captain America's ass, calling it Scott Lang calls it America's ass.
Do you find this out of character for Cap? Because some people were saying this is out of character. I don't...
What do you mean?
The joke was out of character to say, yeah, that is America's ass. I thought it was hilarious.
I think it's the call. I think it's the call to the gay following, because I thought it was like really feeding the fan base. Like, it's kind of silly. Not really them. Yeah, I agree.
I think it kind of showed that Captain America's, after all these years of hanging out with these less straight-laced guys than him, he can, because he kind of blushed and was bashful at first, and then he cracked one, which, like, after that many years with those guys, he has to be able to do that now.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it showed his sort of relationship with Iron Man.
Yeah.
It's the way they've grown together. Yeah.
They become more like each other.
But I find it funny that, three somewhat middle-aged men talking about his ass. Like, come on, guys.
That was also a great scene where he fights himself.
Yeah.
Even though his younger self was kicking his ass, though.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was
good.
Yeah. We'll get there. We see the Hydra Shield combination. They all come in. They're there was a great moment where Captain America gets on the elevator from Winter Soldier, and he. As
soon as I saw that, I just was like, Winter Soldier.
Yeah. And then he does the little secret, which was also an honor, by the way, to Gary Shandling. I don't know if people realize that was Gary Shandling's great line, "Hail Hydra." He does a "Hail Hydra" line, gets the briefcase away. This is also the point where Banner runs into Tilda Swinton's character from Doctor Strange. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on what her actual name is, but they have that moment where he's trying to go down the stairs and she says, "I would not recommend going down those stairs." And Banner says, "I need the stone." She's like, "No, you can't have it." He explains that Doctor Strange gave it away. She's like, "Maybe I didn't understand." They kind of explain the time zone. And this was another Bruce Banner moment where she knocks Banner out of Hulk. And it's it's the human Bruce Banner, not the Professor Hulk, but the human Bruce Banner that's having the conversation. And they explain about what they're trying to do, and they get the stones back to where they should have been all along, and that would save the time. And that explanation, she gives the time stone. They try to basically then. They're trying to go down the elevator, and then this is where Hulk a little bit, because he's just like, "No room, take the stairs." And then Hulk gets on the stairs and gets stairs. That leads to Captain America fighting Captain America, which is they all go. There was the great line of, "I can do this all day." Oh, I know.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was great. Then there was.
By the way, that one scene with Hulk and what's her name?
What is her? Why am I drawing a blank on her name?
Anyways, that was an underrated scene. That was a good one. And I also liked how she kind of referred to Doctor Strange as like the best of all of us, because we never really heard that in the Doctor Strange movie, that she like ever really complimented him in any way. So that was nice to see her character kind of compliment him in that way as well. Kind of put over Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and kind of understood who he was. The Ancient One is her name.
Ancient one, that's it, yeah.
All I could think was the evil witch of Narnia, so.
Yeah. Fair enough. So Hulk goes down the stairs. They are trying to drag Loki. We see a Robert Redford cameo here as the director, trying to get back they're all having the fight. 2012, Tony Stark has the heart attack, and Loki escapes with the Tesseract, which is, I think, very interesting because that was the last time we saw Loki in the entire movie, interestingly enough. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Loki.
That Loki, anyway.
Yes. Yes. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Loki.
He said, "I'm taking this and I'm getting my own show."
Yes, I'm getting my own show on Disney.
Exactly what he said.
So we'll see you later. Then we're also transported back to I'm making sure that we got all the other ones here. So we're back in old Asgard. It's Rocket and Thor. They're having a conversation. Thor is off to the wine cellar. Rocket's like, "No, you're not going to the wine cellar. We need you to do this with Fancy Pants," which is Jane. He has a nice moment. Of course, there was the nice homage where Loki is that whole scene from Thor: The Dark World where he's in jail and they walk past. That was really funny. It was a nice little touch. Of course, they're set back at the day that Thor's mom dies. So Thor does meet his mom. A nice little moment there. Really also developing that Thor development character where she talks to him about like everybody fails and about being human, and he's of course a wreck, but they have a touching moment, and he does his little. It's also, I thought too. The other thing that I think that the big debate with Thor was the whole debate around, and maybe it's in our times that we're thinking about this sort of the Me Too, what masculinity is. And I thought that they tried to have that conversation a little bit through Thor. It wasn't super awesome or in depth, but like that was part of his conflict, was what masculinity and what he thinks that he needs to be in charge. And we'll get to the end and what some of the choices that he made. But I thought that this was a nice little. It was an interesting little touch. It was specifically not his father; it was his mother, which was interesting as well. But he's able to get the hammer, which we will talk about a little bit later. He's like,
there was a cheer for that.
Yeah, there was a cheer for that, but there'll be a bigger cheer a little bit later on in the movie for sure. So
that scene with his mother though really showed like Hemsworth's range as an actor. Like that was like he did so many different like styles in this movie just in one. Like he was fantastic.
Yeah.
Agree. Yes, fantastic. I love that scene. I loved it so much.
Yeah. And yeah, we see as Rocket got that stone and they're off. Then we're off to Mordor with Rhodey and Nebula. We get the scene from Guardians of the Galaxy where Quill is doing his little dance. Rhodey calls him so he's an idiot. And Nebula's like,
that was also really funny.
Yes.
Where he's singing to himself.
Yeah.
There's no music.
Yeah. So
that was so good.
Yeah. So Nebula they knock him out, get the stone, but we also are transported back to basically 2014, where we see 2014 Nebula, and we see Gamora. And Nebula's back in her little is captured. She has a moment where and then we see a re-entry of Thanos. So Thanos is back at this point. They're discovering that Nebula has future Nebula, and past Nebula is realizing that future Nebula has some things. So they find them, they capture Nebula, and this was also just, I do want to talk a little bit about how underrated. I think Nebula's performance was really underappreciated here because she had two characters to really journey through. She had the future Nebula, she has the old Nebula, and she had to kind of fight herself in a fascinating way. I think it was a little bit underrated how well she did. I don't know what your thoughts were on the Nebula character.
Well, I don't know how it was rated, because for me it got to me really strongly because of the abuse that she endured, and then that duality of self. I thought, geez, this is deep layers and layers and layers to the writing.
Yeah.
I think there were 3 characters that were elevated in this movie: Ant-Man, Nebula, and Hawkeye.
Yeah.
I have to say, before this movie, I've never really liked Hawkeye, and now I kind of like Hawkeye.
And before this movie, I've never really liked Nebula.
Agreed.
I didn't even notice Hawkeye all through these movies. Then I was like, what an amazing actor.
Oh, Jeremy Renner is a great actor, and he's done some really good stuff.
But there's so many great actors in this film, but for him, he was standout for me, absolutely, and so was she, Nebula.
Yeah. So we see Thanos. He's discovered what's going on. We'll get to that. Then we're off to Vormir.
But Kev, brilliant writing, the way that they got Thanos back in this movie.
Yes, it was.
I didn't see that coming at all, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and it kind of, I thought so. Do you want to expand on that?
Well, just the whole plan and the way to write it with the Nebula character. She's a big centerpiece in the movie, but just to have that whole there's 2 Nebulas and the vision of what she's seeing in the future Nebula is seeing is going back to the past, and the past Nebula is seeing it. I just felt like that was a really, really strong point in the writing.
Mm-hmm.
So much so, because when you break it down to the point where she was instrumental in saving the day, bringing them to Thanos, and then she was instrumental in ruining the day, bringing Thanos to them. That nuance and that, again, layer of what that character brought, took away, and brought, and then she has to kill herself. Oh my God.
Okay. It's interesting. Yeah. Then we get to a really, not that every other scene isn't important, but we get to a pretty key point here. Not that there's no other key points, but this was pretty huge. And I was not expecting this, but it happened. So we get to the Soul Stone. It's Vormir. We get to see Natasha and Barton are meet the Red Skull. The Red Skull says Natasha, son of Ivan. Barton, Sif, son of Edith. They're having a sit here, and basically he explains the rules of getting the Soul Stone. You have to sacrifice someone that you love. Barton's all cynical, saying, whatever he's saying, that could be true or not. And he's like, because he knows your father's name, and Tasha's like, I didn't know my own father's name myself. Then they decide that they have to do something about it. Now, what were you thinking here? Because it was this. I think that's what made this scene so well done. It was I wasn't sure if they were thinking, okay, I got to get rid of the other person, or I got to get rid of me, or...
they were both trying to hurl themselves.
Yeah.
I think they both wanted to make that sacrifice.
Yes.
I think that was the right way to do it, but I think there are flaws in this scene just in terms of how Marvel did it, because they already released the information that Hawkeye's going to have his own show. So if you knew that information, that what was going to happen,
but you could still. They also released information that they're
doing. I think
a
it was
Black Widow
still a really well acted and well thought out scene, because they even threw you off the way that it looked like Hawkeye was a cliff, and then no, he doesn't. Black Widow saves him, and Black Widow goes down. That was a great sequence, but at the same time, I don't know, it knowing that he had his show and knowing that his daughter was going to be involved, you figured it's going to be in the future, while they've been talking about a Black Widow movie set in the past. So, if you're sort of a diehard fan of the universe, you would kind of figured out what was going to happen. I do have a couple questions, though. Do you think that Hawkeye and Black Widow were, the correct combination to go with here? Because while I was watching it, I kind of thought like possibly the Hulk could have been another combination, even though the Hulk like would be too strong for Natasha to really fight off. And then the other one would be Cap because of how close they are. Like I feel like, and then the Cap opportunity to fight with Red Skull is also there. Like I think there's so many opportunities to have these different characters in this spot for the Soul Stone. I that was going through my head while I was watching it.
What I like about it being Hawkeye though is I feel like he was so destroyed before then that I think he was going noble sacrifice route in the last fight with Thanos no matter what, until he has to continue on with his life because Nat gave up hers, so he's living her life as well now. Because I think he was straight up suicidal.
I'm not saying I didn't like the choice. I'm not saying I didn't like the choice of Hawkeye. I'm just saying they could have done so many different ways, but I guess that also speaks to the strength of their characters.
The Hulk would have been so interesting.
Yeah, the Hulk would have been interesting because of their past relationship.
Oh my god!
But like, I think what they were trying to go for was like these were the two best friends at the beginning of the universe, like when we first saw them in Avengers, and yeah, it made sense that way.
Well, and it also, I like that they used a relationship that wasn't romantic love.
Yeah.
I think the whole story with Black Widow in this movie, just like the whole family thing, that this is her family, was well done overall. And then to have her sacrifice herself just made sense.
Yeah.
I don't know, what was the reaction in your theater? Mine wasn't like overly like sad or like shocked or anything. It was kind of like accepted almost.
Yeah, I'd say the same.
I'd say the same too. Yeah. Then we all come back to current day or current 5 years ahead, and then it allowed for the Banner moment. It was like, where's Natasha? And Natasha's gone, and just sort of the heartbreak that Banner had, and it's sort of the sadness that Banner and Romanoff never had that relationship that they were trying to develop. That was sort of the sadness of the Banner character. This is where they do a little memorial for Romanoff. This is also where nobody seemed to notice that Nebula did not come back, which was interesting. There it was like, oh, no Natasha, but wait, where's the...
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
That was kind of weird there. But they have the fight about who they put the stones in the glove, and they try to have the argument of who does the snap, and this is where Thor is like, I'm going to do the snap, and then they do make another joke about Cheese Whiz, and all that, and then Banner decides it's him that has to do the snap. He does the snap. Meanwhile, in the background, while that snap is happening, past Nebula is opening the door for Thanos to come, and unbeknownst, the snap happens. Banner's kind of passed out. We see Scott look out the window. There's a sunrise. The phone rings. Hawkeye's phone rings, and it's Laura. He's on the phone, and then the Avenger, the compound is blown up. And there is Thanos just sitting there. Nebula gives him, finds him, and Thanos says, go get the stones. This is where Rocket and Hulk and Hawkeye are all kind of drowning. They do a little bit of a rescue. They're all trying to get out, and then Thor sees Thanos sitting there. Captain America comes out. Iron Man comes out. They basically all have an agreement that this is probably a trap. Thor goes back into old school, good-looking, attractive Thor for everyone, and they have that 3-on-1
No,
fight.
he didn't.
Well, he kind of not like...
He changed his hair.
Changed his hair, yeah. Yeah.
He can be attractive and fat, Mitch. Come on.
I'm not saying he didn't get jacked.
I'm joking. I was just joking.
Yeah.
More hair, more Thor.
Yeah. More hair.
He brushed his hair, I agree.
Bev, I do want to point out you missed a sequence there with Cap and Iron Man where they go back and Iron Man meets his dad again.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Thank you. We have to go through that.
Yeah.
And this is really important. Thank you for reminding me about that. So because Loki took the Tesseract, they realized that they still need to get that somehow, and they also need some pin magic as well. So they decide to go back to 1970. This is where the Stan Lee cameo is, and that's Brie Larson in the car as they're passing by. And this is a really important moment, actually. So they're back in the compound. We see a Michael Douglas cameo where Steve Rogers gets him out. They grab the pin particles. We see.
Oh my God! With the digital reconstructing of Michael Douglas's face.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Wow!
Yeah.
Holy smokes! And the hair was like so thick. Okay.
Yeah. And then this is also the moment. So this is a moment where Tony meets Howard, and they have a conversation. Basically, grabbing the briefcase. Tony calls himself Howard Potts, and they have a conversation about what it's like to be a dad. This was so neat. In so many ways, this actually was a really well done scene, I thought, because you had Tony have this conversation about his dad, talking to his dad about his dad to his dad. And there was this familiar connection. Kind of the highlights is, I would do anything for your kid, and had that. And really part of Tony's journey was Howard's journey as well, deciding between being the hero and being selfish, which we talked about a little bit earlier on in this podcast. Howard had that same journey. It was neat to have I love those subtle, non-subtle, like we know what we're talking about, but we're not really talking about kind of moments that the audience are in, but the characters are not in that moment, even though they're in separate moments, they're in the moment. And two great actors here. John Slattery really does that kind of character so well from Mad Men, and Robert Downey was great here.
That was also a great way to resolve the whole story about him kind of hating his father at first at the start of the universe, and like Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, and then just slowly building throughout the universe kind of went on. He started to respect and gain appreciation for his father up until this movie where he really does love his father. So that was cool to see. And man, that Cap scene.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But this was good closure, part of the closure of the Stark story. What else did you guys notice on that? Anything else? Nope. Okay, we'll get to the Cap scene then. So Captain America is wandering about. He turns and looks, and he is 4 feet away from Peggy Carter. Of course, throughout the movie, we see that Rogers is looking at the Peggy Carter picture. It's forefront in our minds, and he's like 4 feet away from having a conversation from Peggy Carter. And it was just a really neat moment. Even when I watched it the second time, one of the things that this felt like, to me, the moment that if he could go back in time, he was going to go back to find her. Like this was his love. This was his true soulmate. This is where he wanted to be back. Like he felt at home in this scene.
Did anyone else want him to go through that door?
Oh yeah.
I really did.
Yes.
That was a great scene.
Yeah. It was really, it was really well done, and it kind of set up for what was to come a little bit later.
Both scenes were foreshadowing kind of the end.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, growing up without a father, and
yeah. And there was I think that you just go back to the Stark scene for a second there too. I think the other thing that was so interesting was it was when Howard said, "My dad taught me lessons by belt," and we kind of sort of forget. It was sort of a reminder from Tony too. It's like, I was hard on you because I was taught to be hard, and I think there was sort of that forgiveness that helped to wrap up that story. I think the difference with the Stark part is I felt that there was closure. I felt with the Rogers Peggy Carter scene, I felt that was an opening. of something new.
Yeah.
That was how I looked at it. Anyway, we're back at, let's go back to like the first part of the fight. Everyone is they're all fighting, and there's the moment where Thor has the hammer and the axe. The hammer falls, and then we see this for a moment. We have the camera flashes onto the hammer just for a little bit of a moment to prepare us, to have that moment to prepare us for something is coming. And Thor is being beaten to a pulp by Thanos. The hammer shakes, the hammer shakes, the hammer shakes, and then it moves, and it goes back, and the hand it is in Captain America. And I'll tell you, Jen, there was a huge pop when that happened in our
biggest
theater.
pop of the movie, the coolest moment in the entire movie.
Oh God, yes.
Well, I remember when the teaser at the end of one of the movies was their whole competition about picking up the hammer, which then appeared in the later movie. Everyone's like, America's faking it. And now there's such a huge debate online about whether Captain America was faking it back then, or whether he had some sort of character growth that makes him worthy now.
Yeah.
I think
he was faking it in that part.
But how can he use the hammer better than Thor? That's the question. Really seems like he can.
You know what? I always this is my thought, and maybe I'm wrong, but this is my thought process here.
Okay.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But Thor's journey, part of Thor's ego, was the whole point is that he was the only one that was worthy of this hammer. But the reality is we were all worthy of the hammer, not just Thor. And that was, I don't think Captain America was ever necessarily, maybe he was faking it, I don't know. But it was just that, like, anyone can have that hammer.
Well, not anyone, but someone else does pick it up. What's her name picks it up? In a previous film.
No.
Everyone does?
Wait, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What's her name?
His sister does, right? No? Or destroys the hammer, I think.
Yeah, she destroys the hammer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's such a big deal he got it back in the past.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but huge part here. More fights, more punching, more of this.
But I did want to see Cap, like, from Infinity War. He didn't really get to do much in the action scenes. I wanted to see him really fight. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was it was the fight. It was great,
and it had so much tension because you felt like he might die.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a nice touch that it's the three originals that they built the franchises around had that fight. They set that up, and then then this. So Captain America's pretty much knocked out. Thor's knocked out. Iron Man's knocked out. Thanos basically says, in the past, in all my years of conquest and violence, it's never been personal. But what I'm about to do to this Earth, I'm gonna really enjoy this. And then there's just this moment. This was really well done. I think to me, the strength in this was how well this was directed. Because then there's this moment, and then the Black Order comes out. All of the bad machines, everything from Hell and High Water comes. We have everything from the incident in 2000 from the original Avengers movie. Pretty much any bad thing we got, and sort of you have this moment with Captain America. It's all bleeding. He gets up. He's standing there, ready to fight, and then you hear this, Captain Sam, can you hear me? And then just a little bit more of a pause, and then he goes, on your left. And then from there, this was, I think this, at least it was the second biggest pop
It might have been the biggest, but like once, it was weird in my theater because Black Panther came out and no one said anything.
No, in ours,
we got a cheer for Black Panther.
We got a cheer for Black Panther.
We got like a little cheer, but it wasn't like eruption. Like you would think, okay, everyone else is going to come now. Like nobody really reacted. They were just waiting for the next phase of everybody to come out. Yeah, so it goes.
He got a huge cheer.
He got a huge cheer in ours. Yeah, which when I was with Jen, he got a huge cheer. It was Black.
And the 3:00 Tame Theater we did as well, right? Am I crazy, or was I just screaming super loud?
I think it was you, me, and two other people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there was a bit of a cheer. So it was Black Panther, It was the Guardians of the Galaxy. We got a Spider-Man moment. We got all of Wakanda pretty much. All of them. We got Quill, the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Every character you can think of.
Ant-Man and all of the Van Dynes are back. Doctor Strange is back.
I love the way they kind of had everybody meet up with each other, though, during the fight.
Yeah. And Pepper Potts as well. And then the great line is Doctor Strange goes, "Is that everyone? You want more?"
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
How did this actually happen, though? That's my question.
Well, the snap brought him back, right?
Hulk snap brought him back. But, where were they this whole time?
Ooh. But they come through Doctor Strange circle.
Doctor Strange teleported them there, I guess, but I'm just confused. I wish we got a little bit of an explanation on that. Maybe we will in the future.
I think we will. Yeah, I think they built that for the future.
Mitchell, your director's cut is going to be 10 hours long.
No, I'm just saying I want to know. I want to know.
I know. So good.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're all standing. I kind of have to admit I choked up when they're all standing behind Captain America. I just thought that was so well done. And then he does the Avengers Assemble. Everybody's running and fighting. We got the Scott Lang and we got the Lang and the Ant-Man and Wasp reunion. We did get the Quill and Gamora reunion, but this is 2000.
Oh, that was great.
This was 2012 Gamora, who's not yet in love with Quill. She kicks him it kicks him in the you-know-where.
Also, this movie elevated Guardians 3 so much.
Yes.
Not only the Gamora thing, but the Thor. The hype's going to be out of this world for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then more battling. Peter Parker's continuing to introduce himself to everybody. Parker and Tony Stark have a moment. It's Parker was Doctor Strange says it was 5 years. We got to get back. And Stark hugs him. And Parker's oh, this feels nice. Then Stark and Doctor Strange have their moment where Stark asks him about what was the one. You better tell me this is it. And Strange says, if I tell you what it is, you won't do it, which leads back to the question about whether Tony Stark is going to do the sacrifice play or not. I thought, we have all the reunions. Then the big thing is trying to get the glove. Basically the object of this war is whoever snaps wins. Is that the easiest way for me to synopsis what's at play here?
Yeah, or go for the head.
Yeah. Barton tries to hand off the glove to Black Panther. Black Panther's running. He has to give it to Peter Parker. Then we see the moment with Scarlet Witch, who is also back, and she's you've ruined everything, and this because, again, this is 2012 Thanos. I have no idea who you are. And Scarlet Witch is you will. They have their fight to the point where Thanos more fire is supposed to come, and then this becomes another moment where they're firing at something in the sky. This is where we see Carol Danvers again, Captain Marvel. She cut her hair. I want her. I have to say I do prefer her longer hair than her short hair. That's my vote. Okay, all right.
You guys, it's a hint. Come on.
Also, it's a part of the newer comics. She has her hair like that, but I prefer it longer.
Yeah.
I just whatever. She looks badass, so it's cool. Whatever she wants to do with her hair. I just personally like long hair.
Yeah.
I like the message she's giving with that haircut.
I
know what she. I know.
Do you need the haircut to give the message though? Really?
There is. There are things we need. I don't know.
Well, I would almost if that's the message we're going to give her to be slightly more femme, because you can be femme and.
Well, maybe we'll address this here because there were some criticisms that the LGBTQ.
Well, Black Widow had short hair and she's feminine.
Yeah. So there was some criticism about the LGBT community not feeling super represented in this movie. What were your thoughts on that?
Anybody could be anything. They don't really talk about their bedroom antics, do they?
I guess so.
Why? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know why you can't take inspiration in the characters as they are.
Yeah, but
That's
again,
me
it's like
I can, like, I've always liked superheroes, and I've already said that the most I ever felt represented was when Captain Marvel appeared, and so I can get how nice it was to finally be like that, instead of just being like, I'm the girl that I don't feel like this is the girl at all, but I'm more like her than every other character, so this is the one I'm going to go with. I was like, there's this one that actually represents me. And I can see how they eventually, people of the GLPT community want to eventually be able to feel that. But I feel like if they had made any sort of comment like that, even if it turns out that Captain Marvel is gay, if it had come up in this movie, it would have been rushed and it would have been done wrong.
Yeah, agreed. There's so many other things they gotta handle in this movie.
I also heard that the rodent community felt underrepresented with one raccoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just teasing. Come on, anybody could be anything.
Raccoon.
He could be the gayest raccoon. Like, we don't know. That's not the point. The saving the universe is the point.
Yes.
Exactly. If they had brought up Captain Marvel's, which has never been talked about, if they brought up her sexuality at all, it would have been completely shoehorned in and completely irrelevant to the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
I feel like people that are looking for that are just looking for that and that only. Like, they're just going to see the movie just to see if the representation of the character. Like, can we just watch the movie?
Also, I think so many things were represented there. Like, if I identify with being male and masculine, it's there. If I identify with being, feminine and powerful, it's there. Like, however you identify it, you will find it there. You don't have to look for what isn't there. There's so much there.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a big thing for having an actual out character soon. I don't think it had to be this movie, though, but I can understand wanting one soon.
For sure.
I think they planted that seed in Captain Marvel. I think I think in the Captain Marvel movie they kind of planted that seed of where they were going there.
But I think it's still also like cool and layers and character, and that has to be integral to that. Like just having something for no reason, like whatever, like gratuitous nudity or gratuitous whatever, wouldn't honor the script and the characters in the world, right?
Yeah.
So that, the future of that coming, it's all coming and it's cool and it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, but it's one of those things, like, the only time they really touch on their sexuality is when any of them get into a relationship or, when we discovered Hawkeye had a wife. So it's like their sexuality for many of the characters is known, and it would be nice to have one that is like their sexuality is not heteronormative, but it can't be shoehorned in.
Yeah. So we're trying to get the van going here to get rid of the stones. Parker has the glove. He meets Carol, and then Carol goes, "Hi, Pete. You got something for me?" And Peter hands her the glove, and he's like, "I don't know what you're going to do." And then, how are you going to do this? Because the scene next is there's a group of people, the group of the aliens, the Black Order's coming, and then we hear all of a sudden she's not alone, and it's all of the female Avengers. It is Shuri, it is the Wasp, it is Pepper Potts, it is Nebula. No, Nebula wasn't there because Nebula died. We forgot to address that. It was Gamora. It was all of the females. It was Valkyrie. I like what Ben said. It wasn't only a political moment to me. I thought it was a really well done shot. Like, it was really a well done, great scene as well.
I kind of felt it was forced.
I didn't think it was, because they were building to that.
I liked the moment in Infinity War better.
Well, I don't know. My 16-year-old son groaned a little bit there, but I thought it didn't
bug me in any way, but it just felt like it didn't really need to be there. Just, I don't know.
Why not? Why not? It was like the handing of the thing. It was like sort of like the village the caregivers, getting that thing to the end point, to the end zone.
Well, and Mitch, you're the one who said he wanted to see Marvel grow and work together as a team, and she did.
Yeah.
She accepted the help of all of the women behind her.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So then it's Danvers gets the glove to Tony, and Tony, it's basically now we're at the point of the final fight. It's Thanos versus Tony. Well, Carol's fighting Thanos a little bit, but Thanos knocks her out, but somehow the glove gets there. And as they're fighting, basically, so Danvers is somehow trying to get the glove to Tony, but Thanos makes the interception. So Thanos and Tony are having a fight. And basically, at this point, Tony has a look at Doctor Strange, and he gives him the number one. He gives him the one finger, not the middle finger, not the middle.
That was awesome.
It was the one. Tony has the moment, and so they're fighting again. Fight. Basically, Thanos pushes Tony away, and he basically says, we have this moment again, and it's basically, Thanos says, I am inedible, which he said at the start of the movie, I am inedible. He does the snap. It doesn't work. He looks.
Because he used the stone.
But the stones are not on his hands. Iron Man has them. He puts the glove on. And he says, I am Iron Man. He does the snap. And we slowly see all the bad guys go. We see the Black Order go slowly but surely. Kind of have the nice music. And then Thanos is sitting. Basically, he's doing it was a really nice moment what they did to Thanos, because it was all about that rest that he talked about in Infinity War. I finally get to rest. So he has that rest moment, and then they sort of close it on his face, and then he goes. And then from there, Tony basically leans back, and then he's passing out. Before that, what did you think of the vanishing moment?
I was wondering how hard those stones are to aim, because Thanos just wiped out half of everything. Tony actually had to concentrate on exactly who he wanted to snap.
Yeah, because he looked and aimed it, right?
For never having played with those stones, it's interesting that he could aim.
I think it's the strength difference and the fact that Tony's only a human. I think that's what they were trying to go for. But the vanishing, I think, was perfect because, I'd rather him vanish at the end than dying, by whoever, killing him. I think that's just a better way to do it because that's exactly what his goal was, to make 50% of the population vanish. So I think that was perfect. And from the Tony, I am Iron Man, which is the best scene moment in the entire MCU, don't at me.
Every time he says, I am Iron Man, I just want to explode in love.
I was an emotional wreck from then on out in the movie.
Yeah, because it really was, that was Tony's identity at that point. It was the I am Iron Man moment.
I think the only thing that got me more was Love You 3000.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was too.
Yeah.
But I felt it. When he delivered that line, I felt Robert Downey Jr. saying it for the last time. I felt it.
Yeah.
And the awesome thing about that line is it was completely made up by him in the first movie. It wasn't a part of the script.
What, the Iron Man?
Yeah.
And the Iron Maiden kicking in?
Na. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was the best.
The best.
But now we get to the moment, basically, from there. We kind of are prepared because we know that the glove takes the energy.
Yeah.
So Tony is leaning back, kind of laying there, and kind of we get the sort of the final death music. The first look at him, I think, was right. I'm kind of have some pros and cons about this. So we see Rhodey, then we see Parker's like Mr. Stark, and then we see Pepper's there. part of me understood sort of the choice of bringing Rhodes and Peter Parker in, but the other part of me felt that this was really should have been Tony and Pepper Potts' moment.
Yeah, she was
Purely.
kind of overshadowed by Peter, but this is my hope as a Spider-Man fan, because we have not seen any mention of even Uncle Ben, that this is the Uncle Ben moment, because we haven't had that actual, like, reason for why Spider-Man is Spider-Man moment yet, and I'm hopefully thinking that this is the moment, but who knows?
Well, I kind of like, 'cause I kept thinking about how you're saying like Spider-Man's not the same as he used to be, and he's a lot closer to the original comics when he was trying to join the Fantastic Four, and you're right, that's like the pre-real Uncle Ben moment.
Because, like, the whole reason, like, Spider-Man feels responsibility for Uncle Ben, so hopefully
Exactly.
there is no responsibility. That's why I don't like Homecoming, is because there's no responsibility in the movie at all, but that's a total sidebar. Yeah,
I agree. I hope this helps.
I hope this helps him.
And I almost hope some of his friends actually did age 5 years.
Well,
So
it's
that
not
maybe he has,
Mary
like,
Jane
brother.
didn't, and
And what's his
Ned
name?
didn't.
Yeah, that's the one.
I'm really hopeful, because I didn't like Flash in that movie, that Flash is older and he just gets to pick on him. That would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I would,
Yeah. So basically from there, Tony basically dies, says bye to Pepper, and then he dies. There were man tears during when Jenn and I went and Ben went to the movie. There were man tears anyway.
yeah, you guys
How heavily were you crying?
The guy beside me that I was sitting beside that was not with us was lost it. Like, he was gone. He was gone for sure. I was kind of gone, but I also was like, I knew this was coming too, so I prepared.
I was very fortunate that it was 3D.
That helped you not cry?
Well, I had the glasses on, so it was easier to hide.
I
You
really
don't
cried.
Mitch, so you don't have as much of a problem.
But you know what? It was like weird full circle, because I remember watching Less Than Zero when Robert Downey Jr. died in that, and I lost my mind. That was a while ago.
I don't tend to cry at movies, so I feel all left out now.
You didn't cry at this?
I don't cry at movies in general. I cry at books, but I don't tend to cry during movies. Sometimes plays get me. Hardly ever anything filmed, though.
Wow.
I think the last thing that got me was Bridge to Therabithia, so that was
I thought you were going to say Bridget Jones' Diary, and I was going to say I cried at that too.
No, Bridge to Therabithia, and I had already read the book and knew it was coming, so I don't know.
Oh no, goodbye, Tony Stark.
Like, I felt it. I'm not a robot, but like,
You
Is
just didn't-
Tony officially gone, though, or are they going to make him like an AI?
Well, there's some interesting things what they could do here. So as kind of we transition, apparently Peter Parker and that school was all dusted because they all came back, and they were all the same age.
Every single one of them, not 50%, which was the whole thing.
Yeah,
all of them.
Yeah. So all of the school was gone, so they're back. And then we get the voiceover from Tony Stark. We all want a happy ending, but that's not always the case. Part of the journey is the end. At this point, it goes to Ant-Man and the Wasp and Scott Lang's daughter. We see Wakanda is back together. We kind of have that moment. So we got a lot of reunions at that point in time, and then we're at,
wish they had shown, even if it was just like I don't know. I know it would have taken away from the movie and all that, but you gotta imagine how many of those people on Earth actually managed to move on and then had this like awkward encounter with their spouse afterwards.
yeah, that's true.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah,
my boss is alive. Damn it.
Yeah, you have to go back to work. Yeah, all of that sort of stuff.
Or it's like, so girlfriend I've been seeing for 2 years now. My wife of 20 years is suddenly undead. It's cool, right?
Also, when they snapped, was the world like completely demolished, or was it better?
Well, that was the whole thing. After Infinity Wars, there was this whole rant I saw on Facebook that was brilliant. It's like 50% of all living things. Yeah, you just killed all the bees and we're fucked.
They're doing that now.
Well, because after the 5-year jump, everything was like demolished in a wreck. Like when Hulk snapped, was it back to normal?
Yeah, well, we got the sunshine back, so we were expecting back to normal at that point.
And it looked like a lot of plants came back.
Yeah, it looked like life came back.
Bird sounds.
Yeah. I still think there's some confusion of how, just before we move on here, how Tony got the glove, how Tony got the stones.
He pulled them off the glove.
Because he's Tony.
He made that thing.
I want to feel like magnets were involved.
And also, he made his glove. Like, it's no accident that it was a glove.
I don't think he individually grabbed the stones. I think he did some...
I think it was
some low-key magic.
Yeah, I think he pulled it. There was an obvious switch there, but yeah, that'll be something that'll be debated. So yeah, we're here. We have the reunion. We're back in the cabin. We get the holograph of Tony basically saying his goodbyes and saying, this is what I had to do. I'm not sure if I was going to live. Thank you, etc., etc., etc. And then he says, I love you 3,000. It was a nice moment. He looks at Morgan and he says, I love you 3,000, which was...
See, the crazy thing is, now I'm about to cry, but I didn't cry in the movie.
Aww.
Also, the kid from Iron Man 3 was there.
Okay, yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
I had Ben look that up on the way home, but yeah, I didn't know who it was.
Okay, so we have the funeral. Basically, after that, they come out. That's the Tony Stark has a heart. It's flowers, and then we see at the end that they put
another great callback. Oh, I lost it again when she said, "I want cheeseburgers."
Yes,
cheeseburgers.
Yeah,
because that's what Tony wanted.
Yeah, but it was, and I think this was a great little tribute to the contributions of Robert Downey Jr. too, as well. So they have they do the separation of all the cast. They go through the Captain America cast. They go through the Spider-Man cast. They go through the Guardians of the Galaxy cast. There's no Gamora there, interestingly enough. They go on to all that, and then they do make the moment for the kid from Iron Man 3, and he does not look. I was like, that is not him, but he's tall now. And then there was the trip to Colby Smulders. Then there was the trip to They had to look to Captain Marvel, and then in the back, just entering, was Nick Fury. And then that was pretty much it was I thought a nice little tribute to what Robert Downey contributed to the entire Marvel universe. It was almost in a sense a thank you to him as well. I took it that way.
Yeah, I think so. Jon Favreau as well.
Yes. Yeah. Cast of Iron Man. Jon Favreau was there. That was then Jon Favreau. Happy is there with Morgan, and Morgan says, I want cheeseburgers. And then...
Can I say, I'm pretty impressed with how that kid did as being a child actor.
Yeah.
They picked right. Right.
And I just love her, and I want to adopt her. And
she did really good. Yeah.
Fantastic. Cutie pie.
Then Scarlet Witch and Hawkeye have a moment where Hawkeye's like, I really want to know.
By the way, Kev, that is the same guy. That's the same kid.
Yeah, I know it is.
Oh, okay. I was just making sure.
Yeah, I knew it was I knew it was the kid from Iron Man 3, which was a nice...
No, I mean, it's the same actor.
Yeah, it was. I know it was the same actor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Iron Man 3, Scarlet Witch and Hawkeye are kind of looking over. Hawkeye's like, I hope Natasha knows that we won. Scarlet Witch says I think they both know that they won, which was a nice touch to Vision as well. Also, I didn't bring this. There was also a nice little moment here back at the Stark scene where Howard is looking, and this was a really nice touch to agents at S.H.I.E.L.D. as well, where Howard says, he looks familiar. And it was Jarvis, the voice of Jarvis. There was kind of a nice call back to him as well there. So there was a lot of nice little things there. And then we go to Asgard, and Valkyrie and Thor. We see Thor looking over Asgard. Valkyrie comes up and says, "Well, now we got our king back. What are we going to do? We got some things to do here. Good to have you back." And Thor's like, "About that, I think it's time that we move on from a king when we have a queen." And basically, he gives Asgard to Valkyrie. Valkyrie's like, "I'm going to make some changes." Thor's like, "Good, make changes." They shake hands. I have a really nice little moment there between Thor and Valkyrie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
Not much more to say about that. Then
I liked it, actually.
Conversation we had about passing of mantles the last time we were all speaking, I think that was without the hammer being passed on. Like that was a solid passing of the mantle right there.
Yeah.
And went to the right person.
Yeah. And then Thor's like, "I don't know what I'm going to do." And then I got some friends. Then we see Rocket's like, "Come on." We go in and we see Quill is looking for Gamora. And then Thor comes in, and I think we pretty much know we have Quill and Thor. This was, I got to tell you, I think Dave Bautista is also, this guy is a really great actor, and he didn't have much to do in this movie really, but he is a great actor. He
actually got a really big applause when he came on screen. Surprisingly, I thought, because he's not a huge character.
Yeah. I think in our movie too. But basically, Thor and Quill have a look, and it's like, "Oh, you're the leader. Let's fight with knives." All that it was really neat. Pretty much setting up the storyline of where we're going for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which will include Thor, which I think people are going to be really looking forward to that. And I think it's with James Gunn back at the helm on that, I think that this is going to be a really well done movie. So that basically sets that up, and then we go back to what appears to be the new Avengers compound. We've got Banner with the time machine basically standing there with Captain America. Captain America is the objective here is to get all the stones back. So he's on it. He says, "You get those stones back, and then you come back." And what Banner said was really interesting here is, for us, it's 5 seconds. For him, it's as long as he wants. He does his thing. Sam counts to 5. They do their thing. Rogers is not back. They get all mad at Banner. He's working on it. And then Bucky says, "Sam." And then we see a guy looking over the waterfall. We come up to him, and it's 100-year-old Steve Rogers. Now, I don't know. Was that Chris Evans?
It looked like him.
It was.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Confirmed. Okay.
It wasn't. It would have been an incredibly good casting job.
Yeah.
It was actually Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse is finally making another appearance here.
It's the actor's great-grandfather.
Yeah. Basically, Roger says, "Yeah, I decided to take Tony's advice and get a life." Then Sam says, "That's great. I'm really happy for you. The only thing that bums me out is that we don't have Captain America anymore." Rogers goes about that. He pulls up the old shield. He gives it to Sam. And he says, "Try it on." Sam tries it on and says, "It doesn't really feel like mine." He says, and Rogers says, "It will." We kind of have Sam looks back at Bucky. Bucky gives a little bit of a nod. Before here, another interesting point was Bucky and Rogers have a moment. It says, "I'm going to miss you. Thank you." And then it called back to the original Captain America is like, don't do anything stupid. And so I've got stupid with you now.
Except it was reversed.
It was reversed. Yeah, exactly. It was reversed.
You're taking all the stupid with you.
Yeah, you're
Great
taking all,
line.
Yeah. And
I just had a question. Didn't the shield get broken during the fight with Thanos?
That was a new one.
Yeah, he probably got a new one.
Yeah,
that was the new one made of vibranium, which was never supposed to break. That's why it was weird.
Yeah, but then did they get it repaired?
But I thought that one was his old one from the 40s.
For like how many years? He probably got a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
He probably saw Howard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have their converse. Basically says the Sam's like, I won't let you down, and Rogers is like, I know you won't. And basically the mantle is passed not to Bucky, which is in the comics, although it does get to it does get to Sam in the comics as well. It's actually passed to Sam. setting up the Falcon Winter Soldier TV series as well. I think setting up that storyline, that's a nice moment. Then we pan to the back. It's the music is playing, and it's Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter dancing, finally having that dance, and then they kiss.
Great way to end it.
And it's the great way, and it is how they ended the Endgame. I do want to talk. I also have to add how they did the credits was great.
Yeah.
Basically giving all the minor characters a quick look, and then they did the autograph from Jeremy Renner to Scarlett Johansson to Mark Ruffalo with the pose to Chris Hemsworth to Chris Evans to Robert Downey, and he got a standing ovation at the end of our movie. So that's it. That is Avengers Endgame. That is.
Wait. There was clanging at the end.
What's that?
At the end, there was the sound of. It sounded very similar to when Tony Stark first made his Iron Man suit. The same thing. It was very rhythmic, and then it just kind of petered out almost like a heartbeat. And there's a lot of online speculation about that one.
Sorry, say this again.
About what, though?
About whether it's just supposed to symbolize, like, just be the last little, like, almost funeral tolls for Tony Stark, or if it's either that kid or his daughter in the future forging the suit.
Oh my God, it's the daughter.
But the daughter's too young.
The daughter's too young.
She's like 5.
I know, but they can jump timelines.
They specifically included that kid from Iron Man 3, so I could see it being the kid from Iron Man 3, and then even later, then the daughter.
Yeah.
You know, they've already got
the daughter's just getting all the money, and then she's gonna bankroll the rest of the superheroes for a while.
Well, even in the Robert Downey closure, you had kind of like the final moment you saw Robert Downey's face it was the Iron Man mask, and then it goes to the credit roll. It was that is interesting. I don't know if I remember noticing that or not, but that was pretty much that's it. That's the Endgame. What summarize your thoughts of what, like, I guess, graded and kind of what your thoughts are now?
It was fantastic, Kev. I do want to point out one last thing. The score was the best score they've ever had, which was something that we talked about, which was one of the weak points of the universe, but this was the best score they've ever had, which elevated the emotional scenes. This was the most emotional MCU movie they've ever had, for sure. I really loved the way they built the characters early on, took it slow, and really built up to those epic battles at the end. To me, it's better than Infinity War. I don't know if it's the best Marvel movie yet. I need to let it sit for a year or two before, because that's just the way these movies are. But it's really great. I loved almost everything about it. My only kind of critiques with it are a little bit with Thor, a little bit with Hulk. Outside of that, that's just nitpicking, but it was a great send-off for Iron Man, great send-off for Cap, and just a great way to kind of close the chapter of the MCU. And honestly, it took a ton out of me. I don't even know if I'm not ready at all to see Spider-Man. I need like a break from the MCU right now. It took too much out of me.
The interesting thing is I was almost getting burnt out on the MC universe until Captain Marvel came out, and I was like, oh, things are kind of changing. And I really liked how they used her in this movie, where they kept her away from everything because she knew this wasn't the ending of her story. And it was the perfect line of like the exchange between her and Rocket Raccoon, where he's like, where have you been? Why haven't you been helping us? And she's like, because I'm helping the entire universe. And he's like, okay, yeah, fair enough. Was a good excuse to have her be gone.
So was Rocket.
What?
So is Rocket. He's a guardian of the galaxy.
Yeah, I know. But I thought they walked the line well of not letting her in to just kick ass, because that would have been taken away from the stories they were ending. And but at the same time, they didn't cripple her somehow by trying to keep her out. So I like that. But overall, I really liked the movie. I really enjoyed the conclusion to a lot of storylines. But it also gave me, like, as well, I'm feeling burnt out on a lot of the MCU. But the last few movies really gave me hope for not being burnt out on MCU in the future.
Oh, I just loved it so much. It was fantastic. I kind of wish that we have never used the word epic for a movie before, because this just should be the epic movie.
That's the word that best describes it.
Right? For me, also, it had everything, and all those amazing, how many Oscar-nominated and winning people worked on this film, right? How many great, iconic Hollywood people were in that film, and then how many, beloved, just so much, and so many great, like you said, you already said it, the storylines and the journeys, and then the new and the old, and the passing of the garden. But for me, again, I was so curious how they're going to do that script when everybody is such an educated fan, and you guys say burnout, people know so much and have their own theories and spin-off and so much, and they did it. But I feel like they did it. I feel like it was a complete 100% success.
I think that from the snap on, you got such an interesting debate of what is going to happen. The snap was kind of a little bit of a turning point in terms of how we talked about the Marvel universe. I just think it took it to another level, and I just thought this was so well directed, considering the storylines that they had to build and the work that they had to do. I thought it was ended. I thought they ended it really well. I counted. I have 6 potential Oscar nominations here. I think it should be in a Best Picture nomination. Last year with Green Book, I think that people were
give it to Robert.
Yeah, with Green Book, they really insulted. I think a lot of people felt
I really liked Green Book, so I don't know about it.
But I think a lot of people felt insulted that it was Green Book that got Best Picture. These are the type of movies that people go to the movies for. So I'm hoping
that's just the way it's always been, though. I mean, there should have been probably a number of superhero movies to win Best Picture.
But you're right in the sense, Mitch. I do agree that I probably have to sit on this a little bit more. But I think just for how well this was done in terms of the attention to detail that they did on this, I think it deserves more than a snobby, well, this was a superhero movie. I think Robert Downey earns an Oscar nomination for the journey of Tony Stark, and specifically this performance I really enjoyed. Paul Rudd and Ant-Man was just fantastic. He just had he had a lot of lines, but he brought the comedic level in there, but he also brought the time level in. He was such a integral part in this story. We didn't talk about him for the last 45 minutes at least, but he was such an integral part of this. There's so many touching moments. There were so many things to look forward to. I'll have to sit on where it is, but I think it was to me, it was such a great ending that and also I think what Karen Gilliam did with Nebula, I thought was fantastic as well.
She was fantastic. For me, I think the supporting actors did their jobs. Gwyneth Paltrow probably had 2 lines, but she did her job in supporting, right? But for me, I am telling you, the best villain of all time award, if they had a special Oscar, should go to Josh Brolin, because my God, just who else could make those kind of choices? Just the way he delivered that. You have the CGI, the hugeness of the character that's already created for you, that's already alive in the comic series and all that kind of stuff. But for me, watching his acting and those little choices, that I loved.
There's one of my favorite comments on Reddit, because of course I watch these things and then I read all about it on Reddit, was from the Thanos did nothing wrong subreddit, where they're this the story of a nice farmer who was just trying to take care of his cactus farm on another planet, who got rudely taken down French Revolution style, and just it was so good.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, it was well done. I think it was well worth the journey. Is there anything we wanted to touch on before we wrap up?
Well, you said you picked 6 Oscars. I feel like maybe even more. Like it evokes a little bit of like the experience of going to go see Titanic, which was so huge, and then also the love story and also the characters and all that kind of stuff. Titanic had 14 Oscar nominations. I'm gonna predict that Endgame gets 15.
Pretty bold.
I think it gets a lot of nominations, but not a lot of wins.
Right,
I would agree with that.
Probably no wins.
Yeah.
To me, the Downey, Rudd, and for sure. I think maybe Karen Gilliam. I would like to see. I think there's a director nomination in there too, and I think a bunch of special effects and costume stuff.
I could see it winning some special effects ones.
Yeah.
That's not new for the genre, though.
Exactly.
I hope that, like, because Black Panther still has that thing with it where it's like, well, did they do this because of the movie or the political stance of the movie? So I still want it to break through and do well in the Oscars, but we'll see. Who cares?
Yeah.
I
would have liked just some confirmation of whether or not Gamora was snapped or not, but I suppose they're still saving that for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, she was like, as Hulk said, though, she
definitely not.
Like, yeah, Natasha. If Natasha is dead, then Gamora is dead by rules of Soulstone. No,
I mean the past Gamora, alternate timeline Gamora, when the rest of Thanos' army got snapped. Like, where's she?
The theory is, I think that Guardians 3 will be some like time villain that's trying to capture Gamora. That's like, because she's out of the timeline. She's like the only person that's not supposed to be in it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's fine.
That's my theory.
I agree with that one, and I understand. But even just like a shot of her like still existing it would have made the hype better for me.
All right. So, in closing, kind of tell us what you're up to again. How do we find you?
I'm on YouTube, The Bottom Line View, talking NFL. Right now, still doing the results and recap of the draft. You can follow me on Twitter at Mitch Milani, Milani.
Anyone else?
Okay. Once again, the Fringe Festival is coming up in September from the 5th to the 15th. I know the dates this time. We're doing over 100 plays. All proceeds go to the artist. And even if you don't want to support artists with your money, come and volunteer for us. Yay. You get to network with cool people, get to work with people in the industry. And I'm Jennifer Casson, spelled Kasun. You can find me on most platforms that way, and occasionally Misfire CU.
I will be coming at you in a embarrassing commercial on your TV screen that nobody under 30 watches. See you there.
And I'm at KVOLE. I am not on a TV that anyone under 30 watches. I have a face for radio. You can subscribe on all platforms. Powercast 97.9 Wednesday. Thank you for listening, etc., etc. Well, this was great. I really enjoyed this. I love that we got in depth. Makes me feel good as a movie watcher that we did that. And I hope the audience enjoyed this as well. We thank everyone for listening, and we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you.